Next up, a fan favorite. You're welcome, all you investors watching. Here comes Jason Raznick, our CEO here at Benzinga. What's up, pal?
How's my color there? Is it too bright behind me? What do you need me to do,
I mean, you look
Patrick?
like an angel. Is really what it is. You look angelic.
I
There's
mean,
like
I could
a
switch it.
nice.
I could switch it for you if I want me to go this
Oh,
way.
see, I like that. I like that better. I don't know if you.
Like
I
this
don't know what you
better?
guys think. Give us a one if you like him against the brick wall and the signage, or a two if you like the angelic heavenly window.
Or three, you just don't care.
That's it's got to be the first time anybody's ever said Jason Raznick is angelic, but
All
I'm
right,
happy
all
to
right.
be that guy.
All
All
right.
right.
Well, hey guys, I mean, that was an awesome presentation, Patrick. And if you guys do have questions, feel free to get a hold of us and we'll get it to them or go in the platform. The platform is awesome. If you're not using the platform of meeting and networking, you're truly missing out. So, all right, Patrick.
Yes. Welcome, Ryan Starks. Ryan, welcome from Century Business Consulting. Century is a very good friend of ours here at Benzinga. They're doing a lot of cool work in a number of different industries. And so I'm glad Ryan and Jason are here to talk about what they're up to. Ryan, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey
All
Ryan,
right.
thank you for coming on.
Yep. Appreciate it.
Yep, excited to talk to you guys. A lot of stuff going on in the markets, and you guys seem to be sitting sort of in the middle of it. And you are like this. I talk about a thing behind a thing, like technology companies, and your company, kind of these biotech companies. You help them function. You help them do what they do today. Can you just give like the elevator pitch on Century real quick?
Sure thing. So I think that's a great way to describe how we're working and helping our clients. And really, our focus, we're an accounting consulting firm. So we're working and supporting our clients with their technical accounting, financial reporting, valuation, and internal control needs. So as companies in this space are raising capital and moving towards needing audited financial statements, many times for the first time, or working towards some kind of public offering, either through a traditional IPO or a SPAC, there's a lot of work that goes into that from an accounting perspective. And many times, while the focus for these companies, and rightfully so, is on developing the science, they need the support from the accounting side to support their CFO and their team with all the financial statements and analyses that need to get prepared as they move towards these capital raising projects.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you like, how long you been at Century for?
I've been at Century for about 3 years, but based on the receding hairline, I've been doing this for quite a bit. So,
Have you seen markets the way they are today, with the amount of, I guess, velocity that's happening, and as a biotech company and your other industries haven't been able to move fast? Have you seen it like this before in your career of doing what you guys do at Century?
I think this is a very unique time. I mean, there's always been an active market, particularly the last couple of years, and in biotech in particular. I go back to even early 2000, late 90s with the tech boom. But I think more recently, with the involvement of these SPACs, the number of transactions, the sheer volume has really been tremendous.
Yeah. And where do you think this is all? Do you have a viewpoint on where this is all going? And what would you advise, I guess, these companies to do? I mean, if they're not already talking to you, they should be talking to you. But besides that, where do you think this is all going, and what would you advise these companies to do?
Well, it's been really interesting during this past year, during a pandemic, the number of transactions, the volume of investment dollars going into this space in particular continues to grow. I read a statistic recently just on private investments was up 27% from 2019, over $20 billion. And that's your Series A, your Series B. That's not even going public. That's just private dollars going in. Okay. So clearly the money and interest is there. And as the science continues to evolve, it's going to continue, which I think is wonderful. For companies that are looking to raise money, either through private investment or ultimately through a public process like an IPO or with a SPAC, really you need to plan. You need to have your financials up to speed so that they don't become a gating issue in closing a transaction. You want your auditors done and locked in, and your timing of producing financial information functioning as if you're a public company. Okay. And I realize that could be a lot for private company early stages, but you want to work towards that because getting that initial round of financing hopefully is just the beginning, and it leads to the next round and then even potentially a public offering. And you want to have kind of all cylinders going when that arises rather than playing catch up.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. You don't want your accounting or auditing be the thing that holds you back when you could have a generational impact. And yeah, I mean, that's why like we thought you guys participating here to be just amazing, because it takes a lot of things to make a company hum and make all those parts. It's not just selling the product or making that invention. It's having great accounting. It's having great auditing. It's having the whole story together, or truthfully, investors aren't going to work with you. I mean, they're just not. And Ryan, I'm jumping around a little bit, but I know you've been at Century for 3 years, but before that, like, what's your background in the sense of, did you always see yourself working for these kind of companies, doing what you do? Were you like an advisor to companies? Like, how'd you get to where you got today?
Sure. So I'm previously an audit partner at BDO, working with life science companies. So what I decided to do was kind of get back to working with management directly. I did work in private industry for a period of time. I did kind of 2 stints at BDO. I worked at Pfizer in the early 2000s, where I ultimately led their SEC reporting group. So I've got some interesting experience, both from one of the largest companies in the world to working with middle market entrepreneurial based companies from my time at BDO. And really now at Century, our focus is on middle market, and entrepreneurial based companies, because they're the companies that need a lot of help ultimately. And that's what we do on an outsourced basis. We step in and support management, and we can ramp up or ramp down as needed, provide very focused support or a broader based support, depending on the needs.
Got it. Okay. And then, that's all. I mean, like, look at your experience. I mean, if you guys are listening in, I mean, he was at Pfizer on working on, what bigger company can you be with? Right. I don't know. So that kind of experience, you're just not going to get. So, if you're not talking to Ryan Starks, you should be. How can Century, like the SPAC route? I know you have different opinions on the SPAC route. If a company right now is listening, they're considering the SPAC route, what are a couple things they should think about?
Well, I think from a financial perspective, kind of staying in our lane, realize that the information you're going to need to provide is very similar to going public. The number of years of financial statements and the various different analyses, you need to start operating and thinking like a public company, okay? Because you're filing with the SEC, and so you need to get yourself to a point where you can operate post merger, okay, as a public company, producing financial information and statements on 45-day period. It's not an insignificant amount of effort to get to for companies. So again, plan ahead.
Got it. Okay. Now I'm switching to a little more broad thing on Century Business Consulting. What industries do you specialize in? I know you do. I know you go beyond biotech, but are there a few other industries that you'd want to target that if someone's listening, they should connect with you guys?
Yeah, I think for us, our services and our efforts tend to follow where the investment dollars go. So I would say currently we're spending a lot of our time with life science companies, technology companies, cannabis companies, and crypto currency based companies. We're kind of industry agnostic in many ways. We can work with any industry, but those tend to be where the investment dollars have been and continue to be focused. and where our clients are kind of from an industry perspective where they're landing currently.
So you are working with crypto-based companies too, Ryan.
We do.
Yeah. So that is interesting. Because I mean, you see Elon Musk tweeting that we'll take Bitcoin now. So how should a company get in touch with you if they're looking to go the SPAC route, or want to talk to you about potentially utilizing your services, or just get a phone call and say, hey, because I know these deals don't happen overnight, but it's the connections that are made today. I mean, if you're listening to this show, the connections that are made today are what can result in zeros at the end of your bottom line. It's not just selling your product. So what's the best way to usually get in touch with you guys?
Our website is usually the best way, unless you'd like to reach out directly or point of contact. And most of our work comes from referrals.
Yeah. I mean, and you're based in where are you based out of now?
We're currently in 6 markets. We've actually expanded pretty rapidly during the last year with the shift towards a virtual environment. Home base is in Philly and also Manhattan.
Is there a minimum number of employees you should have at your company before calling a Century, or a revenue number? Like, is there a sweet spot?
No, I think typically for our core clients, what we see a lot is, usually there's a CFO in place, CEO, and they're handling the 5 jobs plus the night work that they're typically handling. And then their accounting staff really hasn't been built up. They're capable of doing the day-to-day and the month-to-month, but here comes this unusual, quirky transaction, and now they need help. And that's really where we can step in and help kind of produce and quarterback the process on their behalf.
Okay. Now this question, I don't know if you'll have an answer, but you've been in this industry, so you've seen, I bet you have worked with companies that were as small as 10 people that are now 1,000 people, like high growth companies. If that's the case, and I think it is, but if that's the case, what's a piece of advice you could offer these companies that are going through growing pains? Like, they're growing, but they don't have the necessary people. Like, what are some tricks of the trade that maybe you saw, that thing that company did to help grow really made an impact? Like, are there any advice you could offer? If there's, I'm putting you on the spot because I haven't, but
okay.
Okay.
I think if I look at it more from that earlier stage company that's trying to move up, right? What can they do as they're trying to plan ahead? A lot of times it's making sure that your debt and your equity transactions are complete. You have a good grasp on where they all are. I know that sounds simple, but it depending on the number of raises and transactions, it can be voluminous. And make sure you've got the accounting and valuations locked in on those, so that when that time comes that you're producing your financial statements, you have it all ready. Because some of the challenges that we see all the time is looking back and, oh, I did this raise, I gave these warrants to my friend 6 years ago, and now you're like, okay, I issued preferred stock with warrants 8 years ago. Now you have to kind of rebuild everything, and that just takes time. So as you're being current, keep track of all this.
And can Century help me with that, or do I have to go to a law firm for that? Okay, so then you guys
we
do
can
that.
help you with all of that. In fact, that's really what we do. Is we'll take the technical accounting, we can help you with the valuations, and we bring it all together into the financial statements.
I love it. I love it, because as business owners, it's the last thing we think about, getting that stuff organized, right?
It does. It tends to present some challenges for folks, but more and more people, have been staying ahead of it. It works for us when we're able to help, and then that's what we enjoy, is helping these companies get to the next stage.
All right. Well, Ryan, I see Patrick giving us the boot, but Ryan Starks,
get out of here.
Yeah, Century Business Consulting. If you guys aren't familiar, go to their site. It's very in depth, several industries that they're involved with, and big company. Give them a ring, give them a holler. At least pick their brain. Hey, nothing like free advice, but then you want to pay for it, because free advice is only as good as free. You know what I mean? So thank you, Ryan.
Fair point.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Jason. Much appreciated, man. We're looking forward to a great rest of the day. Maybe I'll see you a little bit later.
Hopefully.
All right.